Hi there. This video is on the spiritual attribute called Innocence / Harmlessness. It could have been simply called Innocence, except it needed a little more clarity. So the word harmlessness has been added. Some might even say you could just call it harmlessness. And it really doesn't matter in a way with these spiritual attributes. If you really come to understand their essence, the soul of them, for yourself you can change the names. If another word means something more to you than what I'm presenting them to you as. Now, what is this spiritual attribute of innocence, harmlessness? Perhaps we need to say it is not the innocence of a newborn baby who comes into the world innocent of everything, doesn't know anything, very naive, can be easily fooled until they learn what's what. It's not that kind of innocence. It is the being innocent of causing harm. So adding the harmlessness to it has qualified the meaning of innocence there. So that's what we as spiritual people must strive to do, be innocent of causing harm. Now, that can be easier said than done. Where will I start? One thing people do think of is they realise, okay, if I get angry and lash out at somebody and punch them, or I've got a knife, or push them and they hit their head, physical kind of violence, physically harming somebody, that's pretty obvious that, okay, I need to avoid that at all costs. Accidents do happen, of course, and if you have caused harm accidentally, of course, you do whatever you can to make up for it. You apologise, you help the person, because, nobody is ever going to be able to go through life without causing harm at some stage or other. The idea is to have it in mind that you don't cause harm. That's like the benchmark. I don't cause harm. And in endeavouring to achieve that benchmark, you'll get as high as you possibly can with it in living a physical life. We also know that our words can cause harm. So that's another area that we can work on, getting to know ourselves. Some people are lovely people. They would never harm anyone. But when they reach that tipping point, like the straw that breaks the camel's back, boy, oh boy, they just lash out. They may not do anything physically, but they lash out with their words and hurt people with their words. Now, those words can't be taken back. Just like physical harm can't be taken back, harmful words can't be taken back. But of course, if that happens, you also do whatever you can to mitigate the damage you've caused. And you work on yourself as a spiritual person so that you don't be a physically violent person, that you find other ways of expressing your anger or your displeasure or frustration. You work at being somebody who does not harm with their words. You find other ways of resolving problems and communicating with people in more positive ways. No one's saying this is easy. It's not. But it is something that all good people should be working on. And that's not me sitting in judgment. I have to work on it just as much as anyone else. Possibly when it comes to harming with words, I've had to work on that a great deal. And I'm still working on it, coming to know myself, picking up where I'm heading before I get to that tipping point where I dump it on you. It's not pretty. It isn't. So I have that responsibility, and I take that responsibility to make every effort to catch myself before I get to something like that. And actually, I might have to say something confrontational, a bit unpleasant, tell someone a truth that's hurtful. Because if I don't, one day I'll just tip over and I'll really let go on that person, and that's more hurtful than if I just told them this truth earlier on and sorted out something with them. That's me. You may recognise yourself in me or someone else you know. We may look at your own self and see, well, no, I don't do that, but I do something else. Obviously, if somebody loses it physically, you need to also find out your tipping points and make sure that you get in there before you go over that point, that tipping point. But those are the two obvious ones. So you think, oh, that's easy. Not necessarily easy to pull myself up, but it's easily, it's not going to be too bad. I'll get there. But what we often don't realise is our thoughts. We might think, oh, that's how I'll handle it. I really like to get it. Really like to hit that person. Oh, and I can't do that. Oh, so I'll just imagine doing it. I'll just do it in my mind. Same with I really want to say these horrible things to this person. Oh, but I can't do that. Oh, but I'll say it in my mind and I won't do any harm. Sorry. But that can cause harm too. It might not be instant, like when you hit someone or when you really yell at someone, you can see the damage you've done. But when you do it all in your mind, you don't see the damage. And quite often, you'll do it over and over again in your mind. Now, thoughts are powerful, particularly if they are emotionally charged. And that's what those kind of thoughts are. You're worked up over something. So there's a lot of emotion going into those thoughts and you're directing them at someone. And you think, as long as it's in my head, I'm not causing any harm. What you don't realise is that those thoughts are very energetically going to that person and they are penetrating their aura, unless that person has particularly put up some strong protections against such things, but the average person doesn't. And the average person isn't even aware that what's hitting them, that they're actually allowing that to affect their mood, to affect their health even. Because if we're feeling, what's wrong with me? Everything's all right, but I don't know, or they might be picking up anger. Oh, I feel angry. What's wrong? And all of this is, they in their mind, it's like, I can't link this to anything that's going on in my life. What the heck is going on? And so you are hurting this person and you don't even realise it. And then, okay, you stop sending those thoughts. You've got it out of your system. You move on. Everything's fine. You think, oh, yep, yeah, hey. And this person's now grappling with possibly something that's led to mental health issues, because why am I feeling like this? And then they start to own it. It wasn't theirs, it was what you sent. But they've owned it without realising that it wasn't theirs in the first place. And now it's eating at them. That's just a sort of a very simple kind of an explanation. It can be more complex, it can be more subtle. Some people are more susceptible to these things than others. But you don't know. You can't say, oh, she's tough or he's tough, I'll be able to do that. They won't feel it. You don't know. So you've got to find healthy ways of letting off steam, of resolving your own anger, your own frustration. And there are healthy ways to do it. Okay? I mean, I certainly can't list a whole pile of them in this video. That's not what it's about. But if you find that you do need help with this, then you will be able to get help. Google it. Where would we be without Google, hey? There's a lot of rubbish comes up, but there's also a lot of very, very useful information. And ask your guides to help you. Ask them to help you how you can deal with these issues that you have so that you can stop harming others. Because if you don't let it out in some way, don't resolve it in some way, it'll harm you. But just sending it to somebody else, unloading onto somebody else, dumping it on somebody else or whatever, might make you feel better, but now it's harmed them. And that can be the same as just emotional dumping. Like, when we have issues, we need to talk to people. And healthy venting is just being able to tell someone, this has happened and this is how it's making me feel, and I'm not sure what to do about it, but yeah, it's been really good though, just telling you someone else knows, and being open to if they have some suggestions that might be able to help you. That's just, you've told someone, you've got it off your chest to somebody that you know is in a good place, they can handle it. And then maybe you might have to tell someone else, but not that same person. But you also need to be finding ways so that you don't have to keep telling this person and that person and another person. Okay? But we all need to do a healthy vent every now and again. Emotional dumping is when you tell the same thing to the same person over and over again. Every time you see them, you drag it up again. And sometimes, a lot of the times, the person that you're emotionally dumping on can't handle it. They might be trying very much to be there for you and they care about you, but they want to help you. But if you're not moving on from this, if you just keep going over and over again and not moving on from it, then you're causing that person harm and you're not helping yourself. Because if you haven't been able to move on, it's still hurting you too. But it's hurting you and it's also hurting other people who care about you because it's wearing them down. And you might wonder, why are people not calling me anymore? Are people avoiding me? That happens because sometimes people have to look after themselves. I'm sure I've done this to people over my time, looking back. So I try very hard now not to. I try to do healthy venting and find other ways that I can get through something and where I can move on and stop hurting myself by holding on and not hurting others by continually dumping it on them. That's just one aspect of it. And the other is the sitting there wanting revenge or wanting to harm, wanting to see them hurt and all of this, and you're sending that all out. That we have to stop that as human beings. We do. If everybody sort of stopped and did that, there would be not so many hate crimes, not so many wars and war crimes and all of those things that are happening. You know, I'm sure you as a spiritual person look around at all of that and think, oh, how can I help? How can I help? Well, you may not be able to affect those areas, but you can look at yourself and see just what are you doing in your own little, for yourself and in your area. Are you doing harm with your thoughts and feelings that you're nurturing and smouldering on? Or are you processing them in a healthy way and moving on and letting anyone who's hurt you, just let karma take care of them, letting go of them and whatever's happened. Not easy at all. But it is one of the challenges to those of us on the spiritual path. And a challenge to most people, whether they're consciously on a spiritual path or not. And I've often said lately to people, spiritual growth is really personal growth. You can't grow spiritually unless you're doing the personal growth stuff. It's just personal growth by itself doesn't draw any attention to spiritual aspects or necessarily drawing or using spiritual tools to help you, but it's still personal growth. We as spiritual people have a lot more tools at our disposal to do the personal growth, but we need to use them. Nobody else can do it for us. So have a think about, a meditation about innocence, harmlessness, and where you fit with it. How you feel about it, what you think it is, and how you're working towards strengthening that spiritual attribute, that ability to be innocent, harmless, to the best of your ability. For there will be times when no matter what you do, some harm must be caused. Those situations, they're always going to be there. And then all you can do is to work out the solution that causes the least amount of harm. So we're never ever going to be totally harmless. But we can go a very long way to minimise it down to the bare minimum to get through life in a positive way. Thank you.